everybody should be in the middle of their safe system assessment, if not maybe nearly completed it, or some of you might have had it on the back burner and thinking I'll do that when I find some time. That's okay. We did have a couple of people take advantage of the fact that we answer questions all the time. We're here to help. We're here to coach you through it, guide you, ensure that you understand the process, which is good. So thank you for doing that. And I remind everybody that we're available to help you. So I'm just going to share my screen here. Actually, my emails, aren't you there? So hopefully you're seeing that. Are you, Kathy?
Yep.
Cool. I just wanted to clarify a couple of things which I think were worth sort of talking to the whole group about, even though it only came in from one person. But I think there are things maybe I wasn't explained clearly enough, or people missed. But if you've got an intersection and you're trying to work out the exposure at that intersection, you're going to have a traffic volume on one road, X and Y, and to work out the exposure, it's X, bad X there, plus Y. But for the runoff road, so that's the intersection. But for the runoff the road, it's whichever is greater. So if Y is the main one, it's Y is the one you'd use. So I'll put some numbers to it to make it easy. If Y is 4,000 and X is 2,000, so the intersection runoff road will be 6,000, which equals 3, and the runoff road will be 4,000, which equals 2. Hopefully that makes sense. So that was one. And now Kathy will show you shortly the fact sheets that we've done, and there is a fact sheet that explains that. Now that there's still a lingering debate and the like around that one. Austroads did not at all clarify that. The Victorian supplement and the South Australian supplement don't clarify that. We talked to a variety of people. There's so many ways that you could do it. We thought that was the most reasonable based on discussions with lots of people. It's not without its problems, but at least it's a consistent way people are doing it. So that was one. One that most people did seem to have their head around, but I'll just mention it again because it's kind of important. If you've got a road and you've got a pedestrian crossing the road, or you're thinking about pedestrian crashes, they've got a distance to cross the road. Now, if you shorten that distance with some curb out stands, for example, that's all you do is just make it a shorter distance for them to cross. That is, in a safe system assessment, that is a likelihood factor, okay? And a lot of people are tempted to make it an exposure factor because the comment is, but they're exposed for less time. And well, you're right, and traditionally in a road safety study, we probably would use that language. We just needed to be able to, in a safe system assessment, accurately and not double count the number of pedestrians crossing and the distance they're crossing, and then adding things like, has it got crossing control and all sorts of things like that. But that we attribute to a likelihood factor. Okay. Now, I will take any other questions anybody has about their assignment or how to score things or the like. I'll pause there. Kathy, maybe while we pause, you could show where those fact sheets are, or do you have that ready? You're on mute, Decca.
Yep, sure am. Not anymore. So the fact sheets are on our website, but they're also in a link in the learning management system. So you were talking there about exposure at intersections, Ken. So there's one on that one. Likelihood or exposure. Is that the other one you were going through there?
Yeah, that's good. I forget which even that one is, but sounds good. Oh, yeah. This is a good one. I'll probably need to explain this one as well. I mean, you could read all of that and get the answer, but I'll go when we go back to my blank slide, I'll explain it. Okay. But yeah, no, those fact sheets are there to help.
Design option given to us signalized. Oh, there's a question that's just come in about the design option. I'll just have to look at yours in particular, Janeth. It just depends. They're all a bit different. So I'll have a look and answer that one offline.
Okay. Am I going to take screen back?
If you want to. You want to explain this fact sheet?
Well, yeah, there's a couple of things I wanted to explain associated with that, actually.
Okay.
So hopefully you're seeing my screen again. Okay, there are occasional circumstances, and it's best if I describe it again with an intersection, where, yeah, volume, yeah, okay. So let's go back to our example. What did I say? 4,000 and 2,000. So the exposure is driven by the volumes of traffic, right? And so that's that. Volume's been taken into account from that exposure perspective. But the ability to pick a gap, right, is not actually factored into that 4,000. And that's a likelihood factor. So in these situations, the 4,000, the volume, you don't need to be specific. You could just talk, high volumes is actually a likelihood factor as well, because the gap, there's not going to be enough gaps to get out of, which is driven by the volume, but not the volume in an exposure sense, if that makes sense. So these are situations where volume of traffic can actually appear in your likelihood as well as exposure. Exposure is the clear-cut one, but I wouldn't talk about it as 4,000 vehicles a day. I'll just say, high volume of traffic on the main road, creating less gaps and more chance of crash. That makes sense? Yeah, another one. So if you have a roadside and you have one tree in the roadside, okay, and that's it, there's absolutely nothing else. You've got to now get a runoff, you've got to make calls on runoff road, okay? So your exposure to runoff road is fine. That's just the volume. So let's go with our 4,000 vehicles a day. That's set. Your runoff roads, done. Your severity of crash you kind of need to look at the worst case scenario of hitting this tree. Okay, we know that some of the cars, a lot of the vehicles that leave the road are not going to. They're going to come out there and maybe they'll roll over at worst, or maybe they'll, nothing will happen. But, there's this chance that one will hit that. Except for that chance is low because there's only one tree there. As compared to if you had, lots of trees in the roadside. So the way that you're going to, differentiate that is not exposure, again, which is a common mistake people make. But they go, well, there's only one tree, so you're only exposed to one, thing. No, it's the exposure is just set by the volume. The likelihood of crashes depends on, how many things there are in the roadside to hit. And the severity is about, well, are these little bamboo plants, or are these, a solid gum tree that you're going to hit and be seriously injured, and what's the speed that people are traveling on the road? Okay. Any other questions come in there, Kathy?
No questions at the moment. Thank you, Ken. But please do type your questions as we go. Yeah, no, please do. This session's an interesting one, and it's kind of a wrap-up session, but to do a little just final bit about sort of what is good safe system practice in different road environments. But we want to have a look at some of the benefits of safe system assessments, because shortly you're going to be some of New Zealanders' most experienced safe system assessors, because this is a relatively, in the scheme of things, new process, new practice. There's maybe a couple of hundred people around New Zealand that have got the skills to do it, and really the most practiced ones are really only done sort of 5 or so safe system assessments. It's starting to really gain traction. It's getting integrated into lots of policies and programs and requirements, and that's because people have seen the benefits of it done on different projects and when it's been evaluated. And I'm going to give you some of that information because I want you to sort of be, I suppose, champions of the process and go out there and offer it to your clients if you work with clients, or if you're in a road controlling authority to maybe get this done on projects, or do it yourself on projects that colleagues are working on, or at least sort of think about this, injecting this as a process within infrastructure investment. And if you know some of the benefits of it, or the proven benefits of it, you'll be armed with a few things to talk to management about and the like. So I'm going to talk about how safe system assessments would fit in within the life cycle of an infrastructure project. And we'll talk a little bit about the differences between a safe system assessment and a road safety audit, because that's your classic comment is, well, we do a road safety audit, so why would we do this as well? All right, let me talk to this chart about the benefits of safe system assessments. And now, this was an evaluation, an independent evaluation done by Blair Turner, who is a New Zealander. He lives in Washington these days, but was in Victoria for a while. And anyway, this was on 35. There was an evaluation of 35 major infrastructure projects that were subject to a safe system assessment. Now, this used a crash prediction model, which was based on ANRAM, but also so very similar to the IRAP or Kiwi RAP methodology with some extra bits and pieces. But it is a prediction model, okay? So it's using predicting how many crashes are going to happen in the next 20 years.
crash prediction models basically look at a whole suite of variables that have, we know the general impact they will have on road safety. So things like volume of traffic, speed, presence of barriers, intersection controls, lighting, surface, and there's a handful of about 65 key variables that you tend to look at, and then you need to be a bit more refined and a bit nuanced when you get more refined than that. But this is used a slightly modified crash prediction model, and is predicting fatal serious injuries. Now, the first column we have here is no project. So remember, these are 35 infrastructure projects, and they are big. I'm talking hundreds of millions of dollars each, billions of dollars. We're talking major new town bypasses, major duplication jobs, and things like that. These aren't your little splitter island on a local road jobs. So what the prediction model said is, if the road as it currently is, no upgrades happen, okay, no investment, no changes on the sections we're talking about here, in these 35, largish areas, we're going to see 7,900 serious injuries, 344 fatalities. The original designs were these sort of concept-y functional level designs that were produced predominantly by the major multinational company design houses, the big design firms, and yeah, as I say, they're kind of what I would call a reference design, which is something that you can put out to market, and then they're going to take that and then they're going to do detailed design on it, and tweak it around a little bit, but it's generally that's what's going to happen. So under that scenario, what they produced, it went down to 6,700 serious injuries, 286 fatalities. Then a safe system assessment was done. And we see the high safe system, which is if the project team took on pretty much all of the safe system assessment recommendations. If there were two that did sort of the same thing, it was the better of the two in terms of, getting us road safety benefit. It dropped to 3,890 serious injuries and 167 fatalities. What was adopted by the project, which is based on what they have said that they've adopted and is going forward. Some of them are built now, well, pretty much built now, but it was back up a little bit to 5,298 serious injuries and 227 fatalities. Okay, so this tells me quite a story, and I'll go into it. The first thing it says here is that the designs that are, run-of-the-mill produced, which are pretty much just follow standards and guidelines and just churn out a design, they improve road safety in general, right? And so we can't be arguing and saying that they're producing things that are making things worse. There might be isolated circumstances where that's the case, but we usually, I suppose we usually in general manage to weed those out with road safety auditing. Now, these, I think of the 35, 32 had been subject to a road safety audit at an early stage. Feasibility stage road safety audit had been done on the design that was then, taken forward in a safe system assessment. So, that the road safety audit probably kept this within check, and some of them didn't that might have had some glaring issues were sort of weeded out. So we are getting that improvement. The difference between this and this, to me, is sort of, this is what we could be doing. This gives us sort of great hope that there's a lot more in there that we can work to. I'll come back to that, because this difference here, that difference is quite complicated, which is to say that the safe system assessors are saying you should, we suggest you do this and this and these three things, and they say, well, we can't do that one for this reason, or we can't do that one for this reason, or no, we disagree with that, or the like. And there's a whole lot of reasons behind this uptick, and it's well, funding is one of them. I think people they think funding is bigger often than it is. It certainly is one of them. Funding. I think there's just like fear of communities' take on something, or political take on something, or something that's, a bit maybe out of the ordinary, or not quite the absolute way things have been done for the last 60 years, that they're a bit scared about. So there's that, call it a culture. There's a lack of standards and guidelines behind some of the treatments that we know are at work, and they know they're great, but the designers and the project managers say, well, it's not in accordance with the standard, so I can't do that. Okay. Anyway, I think we need to keep working on that through a variety of ways. The difference between that and that, though, that is our immediate value of doing a safe system assessment. That is just going through the process, literally taking their design, reviewing it, scoring it, saying, here are some things that would bring that score down. They look at them, they take some of them, those reduce death and serious injury. And most of the changes are not large in the scheme of the size of these projects. Nobody actually did that calculation of how much did it cost to do these changes. But yeah, my sort of feel on it was that it wasn't hugely onerous for the benefit we got. I mean, they managed to do it within all of their budgets and everything like that. So that's pretty exciting, just, benefit of going through this process above and beyond a road safety audit. Some other interesting ones, though, that for me was, I suppose, this one. I mean, we've been talking about safe system assessments, Vision Zero, and our aspiration of zero death and serious injuries, and we've gone through this safe system assessment process, and it's included, yes, infrastructure, but it's also included, but if appropriate, behavioural change initiatives, policing, enforcement changes, and a whole lot of other things. How are we still getting this here? If they adopted everything, surely that should be zero, shouldn't it? And I mean, I suppose this shows that the crash prediction model is maybe somewhat realistic, because you look at what is in here, and we often call this put an R there, for the residual. It's a whole lot of things that we really don't have treatments for. So the infrastructure can only do so much. The behavioural change initiatives that we've suggested in the safe system assessment and enforcement and these sort of things, well, they're kind of a global, nationwide sort of thing, and you can't Yeah, if you say, well, let's put an enforcement bay on this bypass. Well, yeah, that's a very beneficial thing, but it's not going to eliminate a lot of this. And there's understanding there's limitations on the amount of time people can be out there enforcing, and there's a whole lot of other stuff. Anyway, so what you see in these ones are motorcyclists. There's a lot of motorcycle crashes in here. We've got motorcycles. We've got those extreme driver behaviour crashes that we talked a little bit about in module 1, which aren't currently the dominant source of trauma, but when people are sort of intentionally driving at very high speeds and these highly intoxicated people evading police type things. So there's a segment there which is really very hard to deal with, and it certainly our safe system assessment recommendations aren't eliminating these things. Hopefully we're doing a little bit to lessen that. Yeah, I suppose they're the main ones. I mean, there are rare, I think there's rare odd occurrences that you don't say, oh, we're going to ignore that. You say, well, that's a very interesting way to try to, interesting thing to try to deal with. But something like a pedestrian walking along a remote bypass in the shoulder, just walking along there, being struck. I mean, safe system assessment really struggles. Well, our current safe system assessing struggles to sort of come up with meaningful ways to try to eliminate that, reducing it. So having breakdown bays and areas, and you can do things to encourage people to stay, be on the other side of barriers and the like. But those sort of anomalies are still sort of understood within this, and hopefully the vehicles, start to detect these things and slow down and the like in the dark or whatever it is. But there's some of that. So there is this residual. But what that means for me is that currently, as we should do safe system assessments because we know they're beneficial. We should work on standards, guidelines, culture, do training, do case studies of good things to try to bring this down, to show, hey, this stuff can be done. It's not the end of the world if you do a raised platform at these intersections and the like. And, more people who come to these sort of sessions and see real examples and we share information, hopefully we'll bring that down. This one we need to innovate. We need other elements of the system as outside of infrastructure to be pushing harder. We need vehicle technology. We need behavioural change initiatives. We need enforcement, automated enforcement, and a whole lot of other things in there to bring this one down. What we'll discover, and we discovered this with road safety auditing over the many years, is that the more of this we do, the lower this goes. Okay? So hopefully we'll start to see this come very close to this, because what happens when a designer hands over their design to get safe system assessed and they get all this feedback is that it's just a wonderful educational tool for the designer. They start to understand what good safe system practice is. They go, okay, hadn't thought of that. Okay, I've got to do that. Oh, all right. And, that feeds back in there, and then we get better designs and everything starts to work better. But, that's a long, long process. That's, I think, about all I want to say about this little chart, which is probably more than you ever thought I would say about this. I think somebody might have their hand up, Kathy. I'm not sure. I'm seeing something on my screen.
Yeah, we do have a hand up. Always interesting to know whether it's on purpose or accidental. But if Jonas does have a question, you can speak now. Or you put your hand down and go, no, whoopsies. Yeah, that's okay. No worries.
Okay. Well, I will welcome any questions about this evaluation, this research, though. No? Okay.
It's very interesting, Ken, and it shows us how far we can go, and then that next section about what we do after we implement, safe system assessments all across the board. Then what's the next leap we have to go to? It's good.
Yeah, there's a big bit. There's a lot of work to be done. We need to innovate. We need to come up with new treatments, new approaches, new practices. There's just plenty of work to be done. Okay, there's a list here of benefits of a safe system assessment. They're in your notes, so you can grab them if somebody asks. But we've been really craving this way to look at how a project proposal aligns with safe system principles in a somewhat consistent and somewhat structured way, as opposed to just random opinion. And this is good. So this is great. It's a great method for comparing design options. You're told as a road safety auditor that road safety audits are not a tool to compare design options. That's pretty clearly stated in Austroads, and they're simply a way you can identify risks in the different projects, but you shouldn't use a road safety audit as a tool to compare options. Yet a safe system assessment is absolutely set up for that, beautifully set up for that. Good information on design changes that bring something closer to safe system, which is what we talked about. Good method to assist planners and designers and project managers to move the safe system approach from theory to practice. And I think that's, again, a lot of people have been frustrated in the past at the idea of the safe system because they have the minister and the chief executive or the head of road safety coming in and talking about the safe system at this philosophical level and this theoretical level of human tolerance, physical force. Everybody makes mistakes. We need to take this into account and and a lot of people just go, well, what on earth does that mean for my project? We need to, and this is a great tool for that. And it's our basis for future planning and design of road infrastructure. Okay, I'll talk to you now a little bit about the process guidance. What do I mean by process guidance? Well, as I talked about, it's within a road, sort of within infrastructure, planning, development, design, implementation, so delivery, construction and the like. Where do safe system assessments fit best? Okay, so if you talk about an infrastructure project from concept to open to traffic, so the idea and then some sketches on an aerial image, and then they get fleshed out a bit into sort of a draft, and then the details come, and then there's something's built, and then it's open to traffic. We know that the safe system assessment process is best served at that concept, draft, preliminary stage where ideas are still on the table. There's a willingness to include new things, change things, move things around, fundamental things within the project. after that stage, we sort of recommend that the road safety audit process be used, because it's just better aligned with those more detailed aspects of a project. So if you're looking at, say, a road safety barrier job, so they're putting new barriers out there, and the safe system assessment will be thinking about, well, how do pedestrians, cross the road at these locations? What about these gaps where there are no barriers? And, how all of that sort of stuff. And then you probably haven't got a lot of the very minute details of the barrier. But then once they go, okay, well, that's what we're doing generally, and then they get into the real design of the systems, and you look at maybe the flare rate of a barrier, and you go, well, and for those who don't know what I'm talking about with a flare rate of a barrier, you've got a road safety barrier like that. You can sort of flare the end of it. You got your terminal there. You don't flare the terminal for those playing at home, but that's the barrier system, and then you've got a little sort of kink in it essentially, and then it goes out there. And why do you do that? Why do you flare a barrier? Well, sometimes you've got a side road or something here, and you want to have good sight lines open. Sometimes you want to, there's a hazard here, and you don't have enough space, and so you're trying to, have your working width, and you've got constraint here, and so you can't go closer to the barrier, to the hazard, because it'll be within the working width, but you want to get a longer protected area, so you sort of kink it. You're trying to almost wrap it around, and there are specifics on the angles you can kink different barrier systems, right? Different terminals. So there are maximum flare rates for terminals and barrier systems. So if you exceed maximum flare rate in the design, right? A safe system assessment it's just too precise and refined. Realistically, a safe system assessment, that's going to not change your scoring at all, okay? It's still something we should be picking up though, and ensuring that we get right. And a road safety audit just tends to do this really well. So that's just my little random example there. I say it because I'm preparing myself for running 3 days of road safety barrier design training next week, and I was looking at the latest and greatest on flare rates now, which is fun. So road safety audits, and what a number of jurisdictions have done is said, we don't want to just add red tape to our infrastructure projects because, well, there's enough red tape already to try and get anything built these days. I mean, you're going through all levels of approval, and then you're doing your environmental checks, your cultural heritage checks, then you've got services to deal with, and you've got all your different soil testings and this and that, and all, community consultation and all of these requirements. Let's not add red tape if it's doubling up on red tape that's already there. And so what a lot of jurisdictions are saying is that we've got these different stages of road safety audit, and in different jurisdictions they're called different things, but preliminary, concept, functional design, detailed design, road safety audit, pre-opening, road safety audit, post-opening, and existing conditions. They're saying if at an early stage you do a safe system assessment, it negates your need for a road safety audit at that same stage, because everything that will be picked up, as long as it's at an early stage, everything will be covered off in the safe system assessment the road safety audit would, and any of those minute details will be picked up at this stage. And I think that's good, because it it shows that we're not trying to just unnecessarily add process to projects. We're just looking to get the best processes in there that add value. We'll take a break shortly for a stretch and the like, but I'll get through a few more of these slides. But please pop your questions in. Kathy, I kind of lack a few prize-giving opportunities in this one. I'll have to think a little bit later after I stretch back. I've got some prizes I think to give out. Okay, so the difference between a road safety audit and a safe system assessment is as often brought up. And I showed you a few things earlier, which is that they kind of serve different purposes and the like. But here's just a little tick cross, and let's just run through these quickly. So identifies issues that impact the likelihood of crashes. They both do that really well. Issues that impact the severity of crashes. And I put sometimes there for road safety audits, but I put a little star there because hopefully, or any of you that are in the road safety audit game as well, know that we released the 2022 version of the Austroads Guide to Road Safety Part 6, and New Zealand is madly working away at a sort of new version of your 2013 road safety audit guidelines to better align with Part 6, and probably, as New Zealand tends to do, goes even further and better than what Austroads has produced. But currently your 2013 one sort of lagged behind a little bit. But these new processes are sort of pushing auditors to really consider severity of crashes in a more meaningful way. Some auditors, did it in some circumstances. There were a lot, and I review a lot of road safety audits. There are still a lot of road safety audits out there that just don't mention the severity of crashes in some circumstances. And the primary offenders are the ones where we see large signalised intersections, and all of the road safety audit findings are associated with the likelihood. They're really important and great findings, and you just go, wow, this is really, like, this auditor really understands likelihood, see-through effects, the different phasing of the signals, the approach sight lines, back of queue issues, analysis of the traffic modelling and the SIDRA and the queuing impacts. And it's like, wow, this is wonderful stuff. Just no mention of when somebody runs that red light and the forces that are still present, because their focus has been, they've said, well, they're building a signalised intersection, and I'm not fundamentally going to change that. I'm just going to look at doing everything I can to make it as, lower chance that people miss the red light and run the red light and crash. Important stuff to do, but we've got to start acknowledging that even if we get all of that stuff right, that we've got a potential crash and the energies are just too high. Issues associated with exposure. Well, road safety audits don't, in their isolated form, look at exposure. They've just packed it into likelihood in some sort of mixed entity. Recommendations to improve road safety outcomes. Well, they both do that. Considers all road users. Yep. The safe system assessment sort of forces you to do it. Road safety audit just should do it. Fatal and serious injury crashes only. Well, that's the crux of a safe system assessment, is fatal and serious injury. Road safety audits will look at other more minor crashes and the like as well, or those sorts of impacts, which is the next one there. Safer vehicles, people, maintenance, post-crash care. I mean, safe system assessments, due to those qualitative questions at the end, which you're not doing as part of your assignment, but that are in there, it really aligns better there. Recommendations to redesign the project if required. Yeah, safe system assessments are way better on that, because the road safety audit, I told you, your job is not to redesign their project. Like if they say we're going to build a set of traffic signals here, you go, okay, let's make those, let's work on how we can ensure that the traffic signals don't present any extra risk. Whereas a safe system assessment is more, well, could we add a raised platform to that? Or have you really, are you sure that a signalized roundabout wouldn't do the trick? Or, could we block off these roads? Real questioning the whole premises of the project. And innovation, like to me, actually, this is probably over time been the most important one for safe system assessments. Just maybe that's just in the work that I've been doing in it. But if you have an innovative project, and I'm going to continue on this signalized intersection, but the project team actually came forward with a raised intersection, a signalized raised intersection on a sort of arterial style road or high volume road. The road safety auditor's report will not mention the advantages of this. That's not their job. They will simply just hammer home all of the, I suppose, risks associated with it. That's important in your risk management. But what it can sometimes lead to is this perception that this is somehow, really dangerous thing to do. And we see it all the time, like these innovative new jobs, and the road safety audit's done, and the audit comes back with 25 issues, and this raised intersection, and they go, well, we've got vehicle rollover, we've got rear end crashes, we've got motorcycle issues, we've got bus destabilization, we've got pedestrians being confused with it as a pedestrian crossing, we've got drainage, is this going to pool, and then it could be aquaplaning, or I can list all of these. Most of these things are minute, tiny issues, and maybe you need to work through them and adjust your design, and that's good. That's an important process to go through. But it can give some people the impression, oh my God, we can't do this. This is high risk stuff. But the safe system assessment has this beautiful graph in the start there that says this is, goes from here down to here, and in terms of risk. Now, this bit that's left, well, there's some things we could do in that area, and fix this and change this and try doing this, and that's all fine. But it is it fosters innovation. It doesn't hamper it. Safe system assessments can be used at a program level as well. I mean, the versatility of a safe system assessment is huge. You can do it at a program level. You could do it at a mine site. You could do it at a I'd love to see somebody do it at a developer-funded planning level. I've not seen that yet because everybody gets really scared about developers. Some of you probably deal with developers. The reason they get scared of developers is that they're like, well, safe system assessment's probably going to recommend all of these, things like raised intersections and raised pedestrian crossings, and the separated bike facilities and all of this stuff. And the developer would just be like, well, what the hell? Like, you don't do that on your roads. Why are the ones we're building got to be this exceptional standard? So I can kind of understand that.
Might make it more livable for the local community. Whoa, crazy. Ken, can I share special comments from Kathy this morning? I'm just going to share something over the top of yours there. Thank you, whether you want to or not.
Oh, yeah. That's a good one. Do you want me to talk to it?
Yeah, absolutely.
One night I thought I should just write up a little fact sheet on this, which takes what I was just explaining for everybody there, expands on it a bit more and also includes the IRAP or OSRAP methodology, which is well, I'll give a prize. Somebody can tell me what IRAP stands for. Or OSRAP, I suppose, but let's go with IRAP. We're giving a prize out for this already in this group?
No.
First one who can tell me that while I have a sip of water.
And if you are going to search the internet for it, it's not the first item that comes up on your Google search. Just
what's that? Is that like a US rapper, IRAP?
Oh, it's a new Apple product.
Very good. It's a Christmas product. It wraps your presents for you. The IRAP.
All right, we've got Bruce, I think, International Road Assessment Program.
It is. Well done. This is the international program that star rates roads for safety. OSRAP is the Australian version of that. There is a Kiwi RAP, and there's an urban Kiwi RAP, and there's lots of sort of star rating methodologies. They're all based on IRAP. So, yeah, I mean, you could just basically say IRAP and sort of covers everything. But just sort of pop down all of these different things with a bit of a traffic light colouring on whether they're really good, bad at them, or applicable, somewhat applicable, not applicable. That's right. I wrote something, I don't know, highly in the first draft, highly offensive, like awesome, ho-hum, and absolutely crap. And then was told that you probably need to use some more appropriate terminology there. But anyway, that's another good thing to flick around to some people. And I don't know, have we got that in the resources?
I'll pop it in.
Cool. But yeah, happy to chat to anybody about that as well. Running some training for the ACT shortly in Australia on, what is the appropriate road safety methodologies to use at different points and what are the things to look for. And I think you're getting your head around it now already in sort of some of the discussion I'm giving, but it can be overwhelming if you're in a local government or even at a national, Wakatahi level, and you're going, well, what do we do here? I mean, we've got Kiwi RAP, we've got IRR, we've got One Network Framework, we've got road safety audits, safe system assessments, we've got independent reviews on disability discrimination, and which of these do we do at what point, and what do we require of designers, the developers, and then what do we, what happens if the auditor comes back with a finding and a recommendation that we don't like or we can't do, and how do we manage that? So there's lots of complications with it, but this should help a little bit, and always happy to chat to people about that. Thanks for showing that, Kathy. That was,
all right.
That was good. Okay. How are we going on time? Nearly time for that stretch break, I say. We'll get to a point. Actually, I think we'll do it now before I jump into this, because this will take 5 minutes. So let's have a 5-minute break. Have a stretch, and maybe, I don't know, Kathy, have you got any more trivia?
Oh, yes, there's always more trivia, but I'll give away a prize for somebody asking a question. So whilst you're having a stretch break, ponder some of the things Ken has spoken about and pop some questions into the chat.
5 minutes, 4 minutes now, 4.5 minutes now.
Thank you. I'll put myself on mute this time. Okay, so my question to the group is, so we're at the last session now. What have you found, if you cast your mind back over the last 5 modules, and I know some of it was 2 or 3 weeks ago, what have you found interesting, different, unusual? What stood out for you? So Ken, do you want to run us through what we covered off in the different modules, just very quickly to start some things, and pop those into the chat, please?
Yeah, I mean, the first session we talked at a high level about the safe system philosophy, about how New Zealand is operationalising that. We delved into those varying elements of the safe system, the people, the speeds, the roads and roadsides, the vehicles. We started talking about exposure, likelihood and severity, kinetic energy thresholds, and then module 2 we expanded on that and we delved right in and we started looking at the infrastructure, and we really looked at how we can think about infrastructure risk based on exposure, likelihood and severity, and we looked at the intersection and we looked at roadsides and different intersection treatments and what's good, what's bad. Then we went and we looked at one network framework, movement in place and vulnerable road users, pedestrian, cyclists, motorcyclists. Then we got into how do you do that safe system assessment? What do you write where? How do you fill out this matrix? How do you score things? Sent you out on site. And then we talked about how it fits in the life cycle of an infrastructure project. What are the benefits of it? And then I drew a smiley face on the screen.
Excellent. And you can say the smiley face is your highlight if you want. All right, so we've had some comment. This has started some thought processes coming in, some longer than others, but that's all good. We love it. Okay, so Sophie said the compatibility of SSA with movement and place was great to hear. So thank you, Sophie. And Daisy's been thinking a lot about the overall scoring. Ooh, so if you have a site which originally scores really high, say 410, and with interventions drops to 180, that is a significant improvement, but 180 is still very high. If you compared that to a site which started with a 90 and then say dropped to a 40, with the interventions, the difference isn't as great, but the site has significantly less risk. How should you consider the score on the difference or looking at getting it lower? I'm aware that you shouldn't overly get hung up on the numbers, but it feels like interventions can look better than they are if you focus on the difference.
Well, I think both Sophie and Daisy are going to get prizes because those are excellent. The scoring, exactly as was said, we can't overlook at the scores. Now, some jurisdictions are starting to draw threshold lines on scores, and I'm torn on this. But basically, okay, how do I explain? Okay, some of you would know about level of service for, say a set of traffic signals, level of service A, B, C, D, and the like. What Victoria has just recently done is to take a whole lot of other variables and put them into these level of services. They've taken movement in place, they've taken traffic, they've taken environmental impact, and they've taken safe system assessment scores, and they've tried to put them all into this and give level of services overall for the project. And they've done that by banding and drawing lines at different scores for safe system assessments. Now, this works really quite well if everybody scores consistently. Okay, it's just fraught with danger though, under our sort of current way that we score. However, if we can get some general consistency on scoring, I think that that's a decent thing to do. And we say, well, everything, must score below 100, for example, which kind of addresses this comment, because then well, that's good, and then okay, great, good on you. You've gone from 400 down to down to 200. You're still at 200, and it's still bad, but you've improved things, but we need to see it become further down. So we're doing some work for a consistent benchmarking on scoring. The idea being that you should be able to put in the general variables of your site, and it gives you a baseline matrix on score. Okay. Then what happens is that you, as a safe system assessor, make adjustments to that based on the specifics of the site that no model will ever be able to produce. But the model will be able to at least start you at the right spot, if that makes sense. So I think that's the future of where we're going with this. But at the moment, it's still, I suppose, messy, and you still need to just take it as a, well, we're improving things, so that's good, but it's not where we want it to be yet. And don't get overly, obsessed with the actual score. It's, is this project where we want it to be? Which one is better out of them? And what can we do to make it even betterer? Yeah, so I don't think it's the best answer to that. And it's because I don't really have better answers. I hope that in about a year's time or even 6 months' time, I can go, well, here's something we've prepared earlier, but we're still working on that. I've got 2 final year students doing some research into specifics on scoring and, reviewing hundreds of safe system assessments and trying to show me variability in scoring across. So safe system assessments done by a variety of consultancies, and what's the variability we're actually seeing? Is this an issue? Like, are we making something out of nothing? If everybody is already consistent, well, that's great. But the suspicion is no, that we're not consistent. And yeah, then from that, we're also going to pick out a few specific things we need to work through. Anyway. Okay.
Good thought processes. Thank you. And I'm just going to put in a disclaimer because someone has pointed out just in the private chat that one takeaway was that sharrows are rubbish, and that was just my opinion. so please don't go away. Go, oh, the safe system course was just that sharrows are rubbish.
I think I know the person who invented the sharrow, not invented the idea, did the standard drawing for Australia, New Zealand sharrow. I'm going to tell them.
Yeah, okay. I'll just carry on offending people. Back to you, Ken.
Yeah. All right. No, that's good. Let's whip through and probably give everybody 15 minutes at least to finish off their last things. But Kathy, if you can prepare to show everybody how to finish this course in the learning management system, I will just whip through these last little bits, and then we can finalize it. So the safe system assessment process. So the first thing is somebody needs to decide that a safe system assessment needs to be done or should be done, or they want one done. And then they decide, well, what type of safe system assessment are we going to do? Now, I've put there full and rapid. These are absolute just inventions by the South Australians and the Victorians, and now the Queenslanders have their own, and instead of rapid, they call it a light, full and a light. They're just a way to try to point out that how in depth are you going to do this assessment? And you'll be finding this hopefully in your assignment. You'll be out there going, well, I could write 16 pages on this, or I could just do a few dot points. I mean, what do I do here? And what's the extent? Yeah. So somebody needs to do that. I'm going to show you shortly what the difference between a full and a rapid is. But it's really some client, road controlling authority or project sponsor that's going to make the call as to, are we going to do one? And is it going to be a full or a rapid? And then they will go and select a team and say, hey, or, consultancy ABC, can you do a safe system assessment for us? Or go to the team next to you, say, can you do a safe system assessment on our project or whatever it is. Then there's some sort of meeting, some sort of around the table or on Teams discussion to understand the project context, all the background, the bits and pieces, what's the one network framework moving in place, what are you trying to achieve, what commitments are being made. And then there's an inspection of the site, completion of the matrix, which you're getting pretty good at now, no doubt. Consideration of these other elements, which are these qualitative questions in a full safe system assessment. And we didn't get you to do those, but I took you through them at the end of last module. And if you read the safe system assessment framework from Austroads, they're clearly there. Identify treatments to improve safe system alignment and documenting those. You write it up in a report and then it's handed over. And the client looks at all those recommendations and makes, responds to. It doesn't necessarily give that back to the safe system assessment team. That's, it's for them to do what they want with the client. It's nice when they give it back. And then they make changes to the design. Now, sometimes at this point where the report's given, the report's given, and then they look at it and they go, well, okay, we'll change this, 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 and this, and this, and then it goes back to the designer and it's changed. They sometimes feed it back in here for another scoring. Say, hey, can you score our new one? And I like that because often you can then do this wonderful little chart that goes like original design, existing conditions, our original design, and then we got the safe system assessment done, we incorporated their changes, and it's down to here. And I like that because, it's a great story about your project and how you've pushed for the best safe system outcome you can get, because you go, well, it wasn't good the existing, we had a design which made things better, but hey, we got this independent check and we've incorporated, we've made it even better. Nice little story. So that's the process. And some of you might be looking at it and go, oh yeah, I'm happy with that process because kind of the same as the process for a road safety audit. And that was intentional, really. It was mapped to the way a road safety audit is sort of undertaken, because people are comfortable with that and happy with it and they understand it and just sort of almost take and replace. Now, in terms of some information and accreditation and those sorts of things, New Zealand doesn't have anything in terms of saying you're a registered, accredited safe system assessor or the like. It's have you successfully completed this course and got your certificate, and that's good. And are you somebody who does, who's in there doing it and understands stuff? That's all good. But really, the certificate is as good as it gets. Victoria's done a little bit more. South Australia's done a little bit more as well. And I just pointed this out for a couple of reasons. But there's a safe system engineering page on the VicRoads website. It's got the guidelines. It's got some templates. Now we've given you the template in the learning management system, and you can use that and adapt it. But those are there if you want it. But they have this register of recommended safe system assessors. And you can go on this if you want. If you want to be on a register, you can go on this. And the way you do it is you complete this course. And then you need to do an actual safe system assessment. So the one we're giving you is a mock one. We've cut bits out of it and, done bits and pieces to make it, ensure that you're safe and also that it's not a too time consuming exercise and the like. but you need to do the, site inspection, you need to workshop it with a client, and you need to write it up. Then you submit it and they review it, and they will, if they say, yep, this person knows what they're doing, you go on the list. They go, nah, you need to fix up these bits and redo this, and then submit it again. And then there's a list. It's just a PDF that gets updated, regularly, and it's just got people's names and contact details. So you can get on that if you want some more, I suppose, formal qualification, but the certificate in New Zealand will be fine. And again, New Zealand doesn't have specifics on when you should, or you must not do safe system assessments. I know it's integrating into Waka Kotahi's business processes and rules and the like, and that's good. Local road controlling authorities, it's really going to be up to you. I encourage you to maybe jot down an organisational policy on when you're going to do safe system assessments and when you're going to do road safety audits and those sorts of things, just so there's some transparency and some consistency in when you're doing these things. Just put this in here as an example only, which is, the Victorians and the South Australians have both gone down the approach of saying, well, anything less than $2 million of total TEC, total estimated cost of, the capital works, it can have a rapid, or this lighter safe system assessment if people deem it's needed. There's a bit of flexibility there. 2 million to 5 million, full safe system assessment for anything complex or with significant risk of FSI crashes, which is basically anything in a higher speed environment or anything innovative. Rapid safe system assessment for low risk projects. And anything above 5 million is just full safe system assessment. And the only reason, and both of these bits at the bottom here are just saying, if you've done one safe system assessment and you're doing an update to it, a repeat assessment, it can be a lighter version. But what is the difference? Well, they're not amazingly different, these two, full and rapid, but there's a few things that you don't need to do as part of a rapid. And I'll go through the full one, and I'll just cross out the ones that don't need to be done in a rapid. So commencement meeting, all that exchange of information and the like, that's one that sort of can be crossed out. If you know the project, or it's a simple project, or that's done in the quick sort of email exchange, that's all fine. Background and context, you're going to need to know it in both anyway. Workshop, it's kind of even put as optional in the full safe system assessment. It's really not required in a rapid. Site inspection, now I sort of cross that out to a degree. I mean, a lot of rapid safe system assessments, you do a site visit anyway, because it's so valuable in getting context and understanding things, but they do say it's an option to not do. You're going to do the matrix for both for existing conditions. You don't consider the other elements of the safe system. So you don't do those qualitative questions in a rapid. You make recommendations. You just do the light safe system assessment report. And then, the client, rejects, accepts, takes on board, and hopefully, advises the team and amends it. So, a few things less in the process can be done. Okay, any questions there, Kathy, before I just do my final little section?
No, not at the minute, Ken. Thank you.
Okay, so what I thought was, you've been given one site to do a safe system assessment on. It's one specific road environment, be a local intersection, be an arterial intersection, whatever it is. But when you complete that successfully and show us, yep, you understand the process, you understand generally how to score things and what categories things go in and the like, and we say, yep, okay, here's your certificate. Well, we want you to then go and do safe system assessments on all sorts of things, motorways and bike paths and, anything. So I thought it'd be good to just look at a few different road environments and briefly talk about what aligns well and what doesn't align well with safe system principles and what we could be recommending to transform these. So I was just briefly going to go through these different road stereotype areas and we'll talk a little bit about what aligns well and what doesn't align well. And what changes we could make to get better safe system alignment. And maybe for one or two of these, I'll get you involved. Maybe for this one, I'll do the usual thing that we've done a few times now, which is for you to suggest changes and then tell me whether they influence exposure, likelihood, or severity, just for fun. And this is a usual 50km/h residential street accessing onto a more arterial, higher speed road. You can see pedestrians there and the like. So jot down into the chat anything that you think we could change that would improve alignment with safe system principles, and is that doing it by influencing exposure, likelihood, and or severity? Okay. Okay, we're seeing a few good things come in, some of them in the private area, some into the to everyone, which is good. Thank you for that. And yeah, I like what people are saying and thinking about how do we alter exposure? How do we alter likelihood? How do we alter severity? So a number of people talking about different pedestrian crossing points and raised crossings and the like, and that's certainly, they're good ideas, and they certainly have that added advantage of traffic calming if they're raised. Curb build outs, curb outstands, curb build outs, decrease crossing distance likelihood, well done, and decreases the speed, which reduces severity and probably likelihood a bit as well. Making one way, limiting turning traffic exposure, so that's an excellent one as well. Like thinking about why do we have this as a road where people can use it as a rat run, and can we reduce the exposure by blocking that off? Is that the most appropriate access to have? Raised safety platforms, absolutely. Slowing speed, all the local area traffic management style stuff. But yeah, absolutely. What we want to do is get speed significantly down in these areas because they're not movement corridors, and we can certainly do that through a number of ways. And yep, Daryl's put a great one in there at the end as well. So lots of opportunity there and lots of things, but it really does come down to trying to minimize the number of vehicles going through the area, slow any vehicles down that do come through the area, and then yeah, if we want to ensure that we've got good space for crossing and the like. Yeah, so a nice one there from Robin in terms of trying to manage the road space to create those lower speeds. And I'd even add to that potentially utilising some of the area for dedicated sort of bike facilities and the like as well. So, but yeah, let's get the speeds down in these areas. It's going to improve everything. This one, interesting one in terms of, this is your real activity centre for, I won't get everybody to do the same exercise on this one, but these are the ones where this has definitely got to be a place for people, doesn't it? I mean, this is a major shopping centre with train station in it, and you know the crossing amounts are huge, and there's people everywhere. Yet, you know, the road was at the time it was 50 kilometres an hour. It was unbelievable. But anyway, it did get reduced. But the idea here again is like, why are we even letting vehicles through these areas? This is so obviously placed for people. You know, don't get caught up into that idea of, you know, blocking off pedestrians and making them cross at one single point when you're in these sorts of areas of such high pedestrian volume. The reasoning for that is that, like if we were to say, well, we don't want pedestrians crossing the way this guy's crossing, we want them all to cross at this particular point and then, you know, cross here or something. Well, cross here or something. Like if we then fence this off, well, when you're in these areas, I mean, people will just walk along the road or the, you know, to get to that. So shared zones, blocking off the road, whole raised areas are the go. Mixed use arteria is a challenge. Surprised if anyone can tell me where this is. That's you can tell it's New Zealand because it's got a pack and save. Only country in the world with pack and save. Hamilton, correct. City of the future. And yes, so these, surprise there, Kathy. These areas are quite interesting where you've got, I suppose we kind of refer to it as mixed use arterial, which can cover a raft of things from your, you know, your big box type areas, but it's more about, you know, what are we trying to use the road for, and if it's public transport, vehicles, but also cyclists, and there's pedestrians and pedestrians crossing, and we're starting to get in these mixed use. We really need to, yeah, re-look at it, reevaluate it. And you did a nice job in looking at one at the in that sort of artistic impression in the last 2 modules ago of how do we alter these. But these are the ones where you can really start to create those dedicated cycle facilities. We are going to have probably lower speeds, especially also utilising signalised intersections or intersections as speed management areas. Raised platforms or the like are really good. I kind of like the idea of some raised platforms in these sorts of areas, just due to the fact that there's sort of the approach to the more CBD type areas. It's sort of really entering into that. You can utilise potentially some of this lane space. Refuge islands for pedestrians to cross as well, reducing the likelihood of crashes, but slowing vehicles through these areas is going to be very, very helpful. Separated bike facilities, as I mentioned. Our low volume rural roads become really problematic and challenging, and New Zealand continues to sort of forge a way forward with management of speed and speed limits, and I think it's great, and we've done a lot of work in this space to try to reduce speed limits on these types of roads from the usual 100 down to 80 and the like, and that comes with huge challenges. But the alternate we have really is to spend huge dollars on infrastructure, like just astronomical dollars on infrastructure if you start to heavily invest in barrier systems and the like on these types of roads. So I think we need to work on speed management in these areas, and it's not going to be popular, but we could be, I suppose, crafty in the way we roll that out. Not crafty in a sinister way, but just thoughtful in how we manage that. In the interim, though, as you start to do that, we can get more reductions in the likelihood of crashes in these areas with sealed shoulders, audio-tactile centre line, audio-tactile edge line, better delineation, point-to-point speed cameras, mobile point-to-point, and things like that to keep people at least within the existing ranges. We're not addressing the severity under any of this, so we're not quite getting as good alignment with safe system principles, but it's going to be a big challenge. These will be our enduring challenge, I think, and interested if anybody's got particular opinions. When you get to like your state highway systems that are higher volume, these are the ones where we will be seeing the rollout of the central barrier system, the outer barrier systems, to enable the continuation of high-speed travel with high safe system alignment. And, you know, on a road like that one, as you come to an intersection, I mean, it can work really quite nicely if you have a central barrier system and you have a roundabout, because, you know, if you space things appropriately and the like, you can have, you know, accesses feed in, come down and turn around the roundabout if they need to go the other way. So you don't need to have constant brakes in your central barrier system. Then you get the wonderful benefit of a roundabout, slowing speeds of all the vehicles coming in. So the, I suppose, strategic safe system route thinking and the like is good, where you think about which roads can you put roundabouts, how does that link with central barrier systems, and you can stage that out in a really nice way. High volume outer arterials with a whole lot of car traffic. Well, these ones really, we need to take that attitude that we can't mix pedestrians, cyclists, and these areas. So idea of bike lanes on the road, we can't really have that. We've got to provide their dedicated facilities if these are sort of 70, 80 km/h roads. And we also need to manage the speeds through the conflict points, probably block off these freer turn abilities. And pedestrians, this is where we'd be looking to go under or over with pedestrians, or try to provide facilities where speeds be managed and crossing points at speed managed areas. Major freeways or motorways really operate with quite high alignment with safe system principles. The reason for that is that they've got a lot of good principles designed into them. You know, there's no right angle intersections, there's no head-on ability, there's no cyclists usually, pedestrians actually quite a bit of pedestrian trauma on motorways due to broken down vehicles or people getting out of taxis late at night and doing all sorts of weird things. So yeah, it becomes an interesting one because they perform generally really well when they're free flowing, and then they perform from a road safety perspective really well when they're absolutely stuffed, congested wise, not moving, because there's not enough speed to do any damage. It's as flow breaks down is where we get the challenge. And anyway, the real answers, or the best we're seeing at the moment, are your managed motorways with lane use management systems, ramp metering, so signals on ramps, so you know that vehicles are getting metered into the system, and then some enhanced monitoring systems so that you can utilize your lane use management system, your overhead gantry signage, when incidents are detected or somebody is out of the vehicle or a pedestrian wanders onto the road, or there's a bank up of traffic, that you proactively are reducing speed, blocking off lanes to reduce the likelihood and severity of crashes. And finally, our biggest roads in those rural highways, well, continuous barrier systems. I don't think that that's any surprise to anybody. Nowadays, we're just going to make them the bumper bowling of roads, and grade separate interchanges. And if you can't grade separate, roundabouts, absolutely. Some people get a little bit narky about roundabouts on these major freight routes, and too many roundabouts and slowing and everything like that. There is a possible way to get pretty high alignment with safe system principles at grade without a roundabout. I'll just quickly draw that. It'll be the last thing I do. How am I going to draw this? So if you've got a road, you've got yeah, you've got some big median, and it's kind of like that. The way you can do it is you block off that. You certainly can't have high speed, those right angle crashes. And you provide a long acceleration lane, or a decent length acceleration lane. And then you provide enough space that they can safely merge across, and then an area and an acceleration lane back within your median. And then enough space to drift over. So a vehicle that comes up here and wants to turn right, well, they have to actually go left, come out, slowly merge over, you turn back, accelerate, merge over, and continue on. Or they could, if they wanted to go straight. So when you sort of safe system assess these, as long as you've got appropriate lengths and everything like that, you get your angles of crash is really good. You get speed differential is good in terms of energy management. You get a bit of challenge with the merge from right scenario, but again, as long as you're providing nice distance and things, it can be done fairly well, and it can be done pretty well. Okay, I sort of jumped along a bit there. I think people want to get into just finishing off their class quizzes and their assignments. So over to you, Kathy, to finish us off.
Hello, sorry, excellent. Thank you, Ken. Okay, so what we'll do is jump into the course. Last opportunity for any questions now, so do type them in. So where we're at is module 5. You're just having a look at my version. I'll pop that RSA, SSA, IRAP comparison report in there. We do have another quick quiz, the last quiz of the session for you to do. And just recapping where we were before. So what you need to do is complete your safe system assessment. One person's already done it, amazing. So you've got your template there, your graph generator if you need it. You can get in touch with us anytime, send an email, any form of communication will do. And it is due next Friday afternoon. So you do have another week to get it in. What will happen after that is we will mark them. Probably your counterpart, Chris, our very keen and thorough safe system assessor, will mark them. So that'll be a week or so after the due date. Once your assignment has been marked, you've done your earlier assignment, you've done all your quizzes, then the last thing for you to do will be a very quick course feedback survey. So just tell us a bit about the course and if there was things that you liked and things that you didn't like. And once you've completed that, your certificate will no longer be restricted. It will appear there and you'll have an electronic copy of your certificate. Now, we have given away a lot of prizes, and I think it's almost worth giving another prize to Daisy, who got a prize in every single module, but I'm not going to do that, Daisy, because you got a prize in every single module. You will receive your prizes and a hard copy of your certificate in the mail sometime in the not too distant future, depending on the mail services. Any other questions at this stage about what is left for you to do? If you haven't already done your earlier assignment, please do get that one in so we can mark that one before you embark on this next one. And I think that's about it, Ken.
Yeah, just get in there and get it done. Don't, it's like anything, isn't it? Just sometimes getting started on it's the hardest thing. Just get in and do it and rip the Band-Aid off and put it in.
Absolutely, rip the Band-Aid off. That's right. The thought of it is much scarier than actually doing it. Don't forget, there is a lot of resources in this section here. Some to point you to is the example SSA report we've put in there. So if you're scratching your head and you're not sure how it should look and if it, what you've done looks right or whatever, have a look at the example one in there. That is a full one though, isn't it, Ken? So only do the highlighted sections for this one, and that safe system assessment framework, which around about, I think, page 17, 18, also 19 even, has your different crash types and your primary or supporting treatment and what it's likely to influence. So that will help you when you're writing up your recommendations.
Yeah, good.
Any
Thank
questions?
you. And well, remember, you do have 3 attempts at it, so
yeah.
Just get in there, give it a go, and put it in. And if you get feedback, there's no issues there, and then you get to update it and resubmit it, and that second mark that you get will be the one that runs through rather than that. So I'd rather you have a good crack at it and get it in than just linger and not do it. But of course, get in contact with us and we'll coach you through. But I just want to say thanks to Kathy and team for the work behind the scenes. Lots goes into getting these up and running that nobody ever sees. And so wonderful work as always. Thank you, Kathy. I want to thank everybody for taking time out of their incredibly busy schedules to come along to this, because we're all just super busy, and the idea of spending time to learn a new process can be daunting. But I really think this is super valuable in terms of just something that you can get in there and push projects to get better road safety outcomes. And really, it's just a wonderful thing that we can do to try to protect our community the best we can with the infrastructure we're building. So thank you for getting involved in it. Please promote the idea of safe system assessments. Get in there and do them for your clients. Even just add one into a project, just to show them that they can be done and they add value, and promote the process, because we want New Zealand doing these on all infrastructure projects, and really integral part of this. So really get in there and support it. Please keep in contact. If you do have questions about other road safety topics, or you want examples of safe system assessments for different treatments, or random questions about things, I've got a lot of stuff on my varied hard drives and the like, and I've done lots of projects, but I also know lots of people around the world doing road safety things. So if I haven't done it and been involved in it myself, which there's lots of that, I'll be able to probably say, well, this lady in Germany actually did her PhD on that, so here's her contact details. So please get in contact as you tick on forward. Follow us on or connect with me on LinkedIn, but also follow Safe System Solutions, because we do continually put out information, trying to keep industry skilled up on the latest knowledge, and lots of safe system snippets, we call them, to try to get continued learning out there. So thank you very much.
Ken, also massive thanks to Waka Kotahi, because they have done an incredible job in getting this training up and running in New Zealand and funding a very large portion of it. So big shout out to them and all the work that they're doing as well. And thank you, Ken, for your continued passion for road safety and getting ideas. So do get in touch with Ken, because it'll spark an idea and then he'll write up a fact sheet or something and give me more work to do. So that's always good. So thank you, Ken, and thank you everyone. Good job. Stay in touch and submit your assignments.
Okay, I'm going for a bike ride. Bye.
Good luck with the sharrows.